4 years since the beginning. I have been coming to the SONO events for 4 years since the start, since the beginning.
Very good. Why do you keep coming back every year?
Oh, I've been so inspired. And I take, after we leave, I take that back to the team and we implement. Obviously, we probably don't hit everything, but there are a lot of ideas and innovative ideas that we like to take back and run with them. I really love to just meet and talk one-on-one with these different folks because they're amazing people and their experiences and the stories they have to share. We have a lot of fun events that Qualis and, well, the whole SONO group has planned for us, and we really enjoy those. But I also like just to sit one-on-one and meet people and talk to people. And then they give us business cards and we communicate after the SONO event when we have questions or things that come up someone else may have experienced and they have great ideas. And they've done that for us too. They've called us and asked, hey, how do you do this? Or what is your protocol for this? Or for me, we always believe in relationships. It's not about companies, it's about relationships. So when we met the folks from Qualis and we knew that they were honest, good people that would work with us, not that we didn't expect that there would never be issues or problems, but we felt like we could work together through our relationship to solve those problems. We felt like we had the same goal of patient care. The difficulty whenever you're changing from one thing to the other is probably more in the person that really is running with the ball. I didn't do a whole lot of the implementation for Qualis. The administrator, Gary, did more of it. So that might be a question for Gary. But for me, on my side of it, it was pretty simple. But I was on a couple of conference calls and meetings between our hospice and Qualis to get it set up. I feel like it was a pretty easy transition, but there was more legwork behind the scenes than what I dealt with from the clinical side of it. So there was more technical stuff that went on. And I'm a clinician, not so much a technical guru. With Qualis, or quite honestly, any vendor, I see as a partnership. So the reason that I was interested in using Qualis, and it took me a minute just from not what they did once we made the transition, but at the corporate level of getting them interested in. Gary and I knew pretty immediately from what we saw and heard that these guys were the real deal and going to be people that we could work with. I'm just a believer in it being about partnerships and relationships for it to work. And change is always hard. I mean, people are resistant to change. But I'll say that when you don't change, you stagnate, you don't grow, it's not a good place to be. So when you see that there are people that you can partner with for growth, you have to embrace it. I mean, that's my opinion of change. It's still, people are scared of change, so.
This is my second year at the SONO conference. Well, our first year last year when we came, we had a great experience with ideas, innovation, meeting new people in a setting that we could actually have a conversation with them about how to solve problems that we had every day. One of the things that we learned about last year that another participant brought to the conference was they discussed a simulation lab that they had to train their staff. And we are actually in the process right now of developing a simulation lab for our clinical staff to train them. When we began looking for a DME benefit manager for our hospice patients, we were using about 10 different vendors across a 15-county area, so a pretty large geographic area. And with those 15 vendors, we received 15 different bills every month. We had 15 people that we had to stay in contact with, and 15 different sets of contracted rates. So on the back side of that, the payment of those was very difficult. We pulled out 5 vendors we began looking at, asking questions, and kind of whittling that list down to a short list to where we had presentations come in, and Qualis was one of those presentations, and we were really impressed with the way they cared for their hospices and the way that they worked with the vendors that we eventually landed on for contracting with through Qualis. I think the best benefit to date from using Qualis is probably twofold. For our clinical staff who are out in the field, it's the ease of ordering and knowing that they don't have to figure out which vendor is the cheapest and which vendor do they call, and well, if that vendor can't get it, where do they go? This is as simple, they log in online, they click what they need, and it gets done. And they also know that it's going to get done and they're going to be notified when it's accomplished for the patient and family, so they don't have to keep checking back. They can take it off their list. The second piece that it has helped us on the back side and the accounting office, we no longer have 15 bills that we have to reconcile with orders that the clinicians are making, because we know that it wouldn't be on the bill if a clinician didn't place the order. As well as it does help us control costs, so we can also have information about which DME products we're using more frequently, where differences may be in our geographical areas. So we may have one site that's using lift chairs a lot, for example, and we may have one site who's not using them at all. That gives us the opportunity as an organization to say, why is that different and what do we really want it to be for our patients and families? The implementation process for Qualys was relatively smooth. You know, you have to do some setup, you have to get connected with your electronic medical record. You do have to make sure all your patients transfer over and that the equipment they have in the home on the start date is inputted. So that comes with some time involved with staff and with Qualys staff. Then there's the contracts on the Qualys side where they work with your DME vendors to get the Qualys DME contract lined up. And we spent time with our vendors as they were working through that, because we certainly didn't want them to feel like we weren't supportive of them in our own communities. The other piece that we also did was send letters out to all the vendors that we were currently using to let them know why we were making this change and why it was good for our patients and families, so they didn't feel like we were abandoning them if they chose not to contract with Qualys. And then as far as the training for staff, we did have a team that trained with Qualys, and then that team went out and trained all of our individual clinical teams. So that worked out really great, and it also kind of helped us have in-house experts to help people when they were new or when they were having problems. And Qualys was very responsive to our needs when we had problems. So if we had, little glitches that just happen as a part of an implementation, we would get answers right away. We would get on the phone, hammer it out, and an email would go out within a day or two of a problem. Here's what you do to fix it. So we had a great experience with implementation.
So I'm Dr. Tim Ihrig. I'm the Chief Medical Officer of Crossroads Hospice and Palliative Care and the Care 4 Management Group, Hospice and Palliative Care Physician. It's my third time here at SONO in Scottsdale, and I'm very glad to be out of minus 10 degrees wind chill Des Moines, Iowa, where I live. So it's good to be here. I keep coming back not just as a presenter, but my first experience was that this is about what I truly believe in, reestablishing what's been lost over the last century, a sense of community. And you have business owners and providers from different aspects of hospice and palliative care coming together to learn and grow, inspire each other. It's a very intimate venue, which is very, very nice. And you walk away with not just professional contacts, but truly friends. And I think one of the things that's missing, as a physician, one of the things that's missing in the healthcare industry is 0 degrees of separation. How do we support each other on this journey, and particularly in this sacred space of hospice and palliative care, which is inexorably difficult emotionally, clinically, businessly, if you will. We need that concerted effort to connect and support each other. It's nice, it's not a cutthroat environment. It's how do we develop relationships, you and me and others, and start to care for each other and growing the space, looking at where we're at as an industry and the opportunities to care for human beings on our predecessors, what foundations they've laid, how we look at opportunities, whether it's educationally, deliverable services, is it DME, is it the goofy physician, is it policy? What are the conversations with healthcare systems. Collectively, what is that messaging? What's that vernacular we can bring to everybody? That's what SONO is about. And that's why I keep coming back.
It's a sales-free zone too, right?
It's a sales-free zone, yeah. I have nothing to sell, but it's not inundation with this piece of technology or this system or that system. This is about human beings. And fundamentally, that's what the work we do is about, the human journey, the human experience. That's what Sono's about, and it's very refreshing. And when we talk about Qualys, my engagement with Qualys has been from an educational perspective and developing some of their online CME courses, and I've been thoroughly delighted and inspired actually that here's an organization that is constantly pushing and challenging the norm and saying, all right, here's the status quo, let's go beyond, what is the next? How do we bring people in and make it inclusive and not exclusive? And how do we market this and brand this as a free entity to empower you to learn and grow and love and care, not just for yourself, but your organization and the people you're working with. So my engagement with them, I hope, continues for a long, long time because I really love that space of educating and learning. You have people that come together that know what they know and they know what they don't, and we're filling that chasm and bridging clinical and emotional. And again, I'll come back to what I started with. Sono, Qualys, it's about connectivity, it's about a community. And I'm very, very honored to be here, and I look forward, hopefully, to coming back next year. With respect to Qualys, my relationship dates back a few years as well, primarily as someone developing, educational materials for their CME deliverables. And as a physician and as a human being, okay, someone who's been a caregiver, as a parent, as a husband, it's not about business strictly. It's about empowering people to go beyond where they've been before. We have this fundamental baseline of what people have accomplished and knowledge. And Qualys is saying, how do we move that pendulum? How do we make that accessible to everybody? It's inclusionary. Circle back with what I said beginning. It's about a community and how do we care for each other as human beings. So it's not exclusionary. It's not a linear algorithmic business model. It's how do we bring people together to care for each other? How do we inspire? How do we educate? And how do we put forth that messaging and the vernacular of care for other human beings, whether you are a DME organization, whether you are pharmacy, whether you're changing the urine-soaked sheets at someone's home. All these dots connect to transcend medicine, if you will, and actually care for a human being. And so that's why I'm here. That's why I appreciate Qualys. I appreciate everyone here, and I certainly hope, I'll be invited back next year. I know that my relationship with everybody will continue well beyond Sono, and I'm very, very thankful for that.
Hi, my name is Patrick Miller. I'm with North Star Care Community, and we have Arbor Hospice, Hospice of Michigan, within our family of hospices, and I'm the Executive Vice President and the Chief Operating Officer. Today we're in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona. It's wonderful, and we're here at the SONO Symposium, and it's been a great opportunity. This is my second year to come back and to listen, to share ideas, to learn, and just enjoy time with some great folks. Helps facilitate sharing, communication. We don't, as an industry, benchmark well. We're not necessarily as transparent as I think other industries are and can be. And this is a smaller segment of certainly the industry, but it's a great opportunity for those of us here who are pretty entrepreneurial, pretty forward-thinking, to share ideas, to be open, talk about things that aren't going well necessarily, but then to learn from each other. And I found it to be beneficial in the 2 years I've been attending. One of the things we've found that can be really problematic is within the industry, because you partner with a lot of vendors, a lot of people that help do the work in partnership with you. They don't all have the same commitment to standards, to excellence, timeliness, et cetera, even to fulfillment of what your mission is. And we've seen that certainly historically in our DME areas. Our durable medical equipment is one example. We've had an opportunity to partner with Qualys, and they've done a great job in coming alongside and being like-minded, having the same commitment to quality that we want and helping to ensure that within our entire vendor network for all of our DME supplies. It's been a great benefit for our patients and families, and Qualys has been a real partner for us. One of the things that Qualys did was they brought to us data, better data than we'd had before, so we were able to understand where we were from a volume perspective or a pure cost perspective, where we had opportunities to save money without sacrificing quality or responsiveness. And so we've realized that, and we see that there are some other areas we can continue to pursue. We're in the process of that, but it's been an excellent partnership financially for us and excellent quality at the bedside for patients and families.
You know, I actually thought it would be more like a vendor type of event where there would be different vendors there selling their products and things like that, and then maybe a couple sessions, but more of the vendor type of thing where they're selling their products. This one is a little bit more intimate and personal. Motivational, especially. The energy in the room is very high. The speakers are very motivating, but educating as well. So that is what I've gotten so far. I'm really excited because it's more than what I had expected. Sam, the person that I'm sitting next to, my table partner, we've had some dialogue, and he's educated me on a thing or two, and then some of the other people in the room that I have spoken with, yeah. Dr. Tim he talked about the experience with his mother passing, which really touched me because it was a very similar situation to when my dad passed. He talked about living your life until the end of life. So that is something that, touched me, and some of the things that he talked about was very educational as well. I would absolutely come back to SONO again. I'm looking forward to coming back to SONO again.
I've been coming to SONO for 4 years. I keep coming back because it's a group of hospice professionals that kind of share the same vision and the innovation that's taking part in the industry. You can share ideas, you can share thoughts. It's sharing of what each hospices are doing in their areas to make themselves stand out and make the difference in the community. I think there's many benefits from coming to SONO. Obviously, when you meet other people, you learn about what they're doing at their hospice. It's so easy to share while you're here, but I think those connections carry on even after you leave here. You can email anybody that's been at this conference, and you can talk to them, and what have they done, what have we done? I think some of the things that we shared last year was some of the work that we've done on our pharmacy program. We spent a tremendous amount of work improving that, and that's definitely one thing that I've had a lot of people ask us about. In Qualys as well, because I still think there's a lot of vendors out there that don't understand the value of a DME management company, and I do get a lot of questions about that as well. I think one of the biggest benefits that hospice has provided to us is that it's given us access to a larger vendor network. We're a statewide organization. We cover a very large territory. So we had many markets where we were not able to competitively contract with many of the DME providers. Qualys was able to step in and help us kind of navigate those difficult vendors that we've had. We've also had a lot of issues in the past just not understanding our utilization. We didn't have programs, we didn't have processes in place, so we didn't know what our opportunities were. So Qualys definitely provides that as a benefit to us now. With a larger vendor network, we're able to reach a larger population of patients. I think that's probably the biggest thing that starts it. But we have patients that come on with vendors already in the home, already servicing the patients, and it's a very difficult transition coming on to hospice. It's even more difficult sometimes when you have to change their equipment. So having a larger network allows us to sometimes provide that seamless continuum and not have to change anything for the patients, which just is a better outcome for the patients. One of the things that I tell people that when they ask me about Qualys, one of the things that comes to mind is their customer service. It is far above what you would normally get from most companies. So they provide us just benefit that we haven't seen before. We're very fortunate we don't have a lot of problems with many of the vendors, but when we do, we know that we can rely on Qualys to work together to resolve those issues. I look at numbers all the time, every day. So when I can get something that is a consolidated report that's easy to understand and has the recommendations that we need, and it really helps us identify what our opportunities are. That's what I'm looking for, and Qualys has definitely provided that to us.
Thank you for asking, because I'm so excited about SONO. So 7 years ago, Hallthorpe and I sat down in our offices in Tulsa, and we were saying there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way to connect hospices with vendors. Vendors being like DME, med supplies, RX, those kinds of vendors. And wouldn't it be neat if a hospice could sit down and in their EMR, log in a patient one time, and it populates all of their vendor profiles so that the eligibility matches in all of their different vendor categories, their DME, med supplies, their RX. And then you could create all these reports. You could manage the patient cost without going to separate sites and pulling data. It would be fabulous. And it evolved into this thing called the SONO Symposium, where we invite hospices from around the country to come and to really get together and to share ideas, to really not just listen, but to engage, to be a part, be in the audience and be the expert. Share your experience with other people that are like-minded and trying to do great things in the hospice community. You know, hospice is a national ministry that we're all doing. It's not just the people in Georgia, just the people in North Carolina. It's not just the people in Texas or Oklahoma or Idaho. It's all of us trying to do something really special for people that are in their last days. I can't tell you how excited we are that 7 years later, it's going this well. And it's going this well, not just because of the vendors, but because of the participants. And my hope is, as we grow, we'll have more high quality, super excited participants. Okay, first of all, I want to talk about the engagement of people. When we first started this hospice symposium, it was like being at a 7th grade dance. You know, in the 7th grade, you go to the dance and all the boys sit on the right and all the girls sit on the left or stand against the wall and no one's out there dancing. So I got up the first year and I said, okay guys, it's like a 7th grade dance. Everybody's got to get out on the dance floor and enjoy the music. And that caught fire. That analogy was exactly what we needed to say to people. Don't hold on to your ideas. Share your ideas. Let's all get better. Your ideas plus my ideas plus their ideas, we're all going to get better. Well, that happens as a vendor as well. You know, we provide prescription drugs for hundreds of hospices in the United States. And when we sit down with the people and they say, this is what we're going through and this is what we need, sometimes I have suggestions for them. I'll say, you know, what we're already providing that data, but most of our hospice patients or clients aren't reading the reports. But they might say, but the report needs to say this, or this is the best way to get the data to us. So it's really about being open-minded and humble. I don't think arrogant hospices would do well here. I don't think they would fit. I think people that are truly servant-like and humble are perfect fits for SONO. So to keep it new and fresh, one, I would say in a little bit of our life, it's easy because things are changing so much. Like when we started, it was all about the hospice, and now we're migrating much more toward how does the movement toward true palliative care impact hospice? How does palliative care, which is upstream in the downflow of patients going from acute care to palliative care to hospice, how's that going to impact the hospice? I think we've got 5 or 6 years of really good content looking forward as we're really embarking on true palliative care. That's one. The other thing is we're constantly scouring the marketplace to say, who can we bring in that's going to really provide value for the hospice? Not just DME or RX or whatever, not the basic blocking and tackling, but somebody like a telemedicine provider that says, if you'll use telemedicine with your employees, it will decrease absenteeism. How about if we bring in somebody that's an expert in motivation of the employee or coaching your senior management? Those are the kinds of things that they never go out of style. We've also been adding like 2.0s. Like I'll do Innovation 1 last year. Well, this year I did Innovation 2.0, which says now we talked about being creative, but now let's talk about implementing your creative ideas into your company, which is innovation. So creativity plus application is innovation. And then next we're going to be talking about, okay, how do you push that to your teams? How do you get a team to take your idea and integrate it into your hospice? How do you build a culture of true innovation? So I think there's many years of stages. We spend a lot of time in these sessions communicating, advising, coaching, training, sharing ideas, and there's a lot to hospice. It's not such a simple industry where somebody can just pick it up like that. There's a lot of content that needs to be shared. And we're excited that we've got people flying, experts coming in from all over the country. And finally, I'll say, we're starting to see from our community of hospice participants, people showing up and saying, I'm an expert in skilled nursing, or I'm an expert in pain management. I'm an expert in compound medications. And these people are stepping up and we're having them speak. It's fantastic. Okay, the biggest challenge that the hospice has is having the time available to spend with our clinical staff getting coached on how to lower cost without decreasing patient care. That's number one. That's the biggest. The other thing is to remember that there are opportunities to use optimized order quantities to keep costs down without ever minimizing care. What we're minimizing is the amount of medications we're throwing away. So those would be probably the two we're focused most with our clients right now. You know, I hate the concept that I'm going to pitch it, because what we tried to produce is such a group of like-minded individuals who really perceive themselves as colleagues, connecting, talking throughout the year, hugging when they see each other, sitting down to have a cocktail or sitting down to have breakfast, and really talking and saying, okay, I trust you now. Let me share with you my biggest challenge, because maybe you've had that. See, the thing about it is, most of these executive directors or senior managers, they're going through a challenge that the other person may have just gone through, or they tried something that didn't work. See, sometimes it's just as good to find out what someone tried that didn't work as it is to find out what did work. Sometimes we need to eliminate things so that the obvious answer is right there in front of us.